In this episode, I will show you how to caulk this joint to make it look like this. So, if you want to learn how to do this too, make sure to keep watching. Welcome to Aidan's Painting Hacks. As you can see, the paint is very bad. On the left, the paint has already been scraped off, and on the right, I still have to do that. You can use a hair dryer or paint stripper to scrape off the paint. I have used both options. The paint stripper that I used is Cleany Paint Stripper. It is a powerful paint stripper that works well. After that, I primed the frame with Wisnol SDT Ultra Primer. I did this by diluting the first coat with 10% turpentine, so that it can penetrate the surface well. Then, I used epoxy putty to fill in the worst holes. However, the joint between the two boards of the weather strip, I will not fill in with putty because there is too much force on it. And it's better to seal it with a strong sealant. I am doing this with the Glaskit TS from Soudal. You should know that I have now switched to Glass and Paint from Soudal. The Glass and Paint will replace the Glaskit, because it was no longer possible to get a COMO certification for the Glaskit TS. This certification is available for the Glass and Paint. These recordings are from 2021, when the Glass and Paint was not yet on the market. But I did not want to throw away these recordings because I believe that this type of joint is common among many do-it-yourselfers, and these videos can greatly help you with your DIY projects. And if you appreciate that, give me as many thumbs up as possible, because that will help me make Mr. Soudal happy. You may wonder if it is also possible to seal the joint with an epoxy paste. But that is certainly not the advice. There is always a lot of force on this type of joint, and that would mean that the joints will soon start to crack. Another comment that people would also make is the question whether it is not better to keep the joint open, because the sealant could crack. That is always a possibility. I don't have a preference myself, because you always have to deal with the end faces, and they can also be affected by the weather and eventually push the paint off. And closing it well is not only my preference because it looks nicer, but it is also the condition of my client. He wanted it to be closed. I have closed this joint before with the sealant from Soudal. They used to have putty in it, but that will really break. I took everything out and made a backrest with a bar in between, and then completely filled it with the sealant, and then painted it all nicely. This was done a few years ago, but it is still good. I try to make the sealant as smooth as possible and fit well with both parts of the boards. Of course, you are now looking at it from a camera perspective where you are standing half a meter away from it. But of course, this is a distance of 12 meters from the ground if you were to look up here. So you make it as smooth as possible and remove anything that is excessive with the cleaning cloths. If you like these tips, make sure to subscribe to my channel as soon as possible so you don't miss anything. Once the sealant is completely dry, you can clean it with clean water. I used soap to make the sealant smooth, and any soap residue must be removed. Then you can prime the entire thing. My second coat of primer is again the primer from Wisnol. The second coat I apply undiluted. I prefer to do that with the brush, because I can apply a full coat and get good under the tiles. For this I use the Futura brush from Gautantia size number 16, because you can distribute that strong paint layer well without getting any sagging. You want to apply a good thickness. And for the small corners I use the purple brush size 14. When the paint is dry, there may still be small cracks, as you can see here. The board itself was still very good, but had not been touched for years. I fill in the joints with an epoxy paint putty, and then I give it a third primer coat to keep the epoxy under the paint. When it is completely dry, I sand it with P320 and with a sanding sponge P600. And of course, you can purchase all materials such as paint, brushes or sealant through me. In the description you will find a video on how to do that exactly. With your order, you sponsor my channel. Then I will paint it with the Wisnol SDT Ultra High Gloss paint. The color that is on here is Black RAL 9005. As always, people will ask if it is useful to use such a dark color. I just carry out an order that the customer wants, and of course, I indicate in advance that a dark color always requires more maintenance than a light color, because the color can get much warmer in the sun. But it looks good in the paint, and the customer knows that it needs to be maintained regularly. All doors and windows are also made black, and also at the windows the old sealant was removed and resealed. I will teach you all of this in the future. Here in the middle of the screen, you will learn how to get nice straight lines on the glass. Also watch there so you can learn that too, and subscribe to my channel immediately, because then you will never miss anything. I will see you soon in the next video. Adios.